Hi, I'm Upasana Asrani, and today we are in conversation with Jitish Kallat, one of the most influential contemporary artists of our time. His works are thought-provoking to say the least and covers various aspects from the mundane to the magical realms of time and space. Thank you, Jitish, for being part of our platform, the International Foundation for the Arts. And the body of work that you have created is absolutely phenomenal. The size and scale is something that's just completely has blown a lot of people's brains away. So can you please take us through this journey and give us a sneak peek into the entire body of work?
So essentially this exhibition, Terranum, Nuncius, has two works, and they're both works that have kind of emerged in their own sort of orbit. They sort of develop parallelly in the studio, but I think they have their own isolated journeys. So one work is covering letter Terranum Nuncius, which is an installation with back illuminated photographs and sound and a video projection. But the other work is Ellipses, which is right behind us.
Right.
Now, covering letter Terranum Nuncius follows this work called Covering Letter, which you're obviously familiar with, which was a work from 2012. A letter written by Gandhi to Adolf Hitler 5 weeks before the onset of the Second World War. So it's actually after a good 7-year gap that the second covering letter finally has materialized as some kind of an experience and form and as an artwork. But the contents of this work, the contents of this letter, this correspondence that makes the letter, are essentially the sounds and images that are now what one might think of as the outskirts of the solar system.
Absolutely.
They were the images uploaded by NASA onto the Golden Record, hoisted on the Voyager 1 and 2 space missions that left planet Earth in 1977, and images and sounds that were arranged in a certain order by Carl Sagan and Frank Drake. Especially knowing that this shuttle would keep going perhaps way beyond the extinction of us as a species, our planet, our solar system, and even possibly the merger of our galaxy with Andromeda, which is 4.5 billion years away.
Yes, that's right.
So this would go on and outlive us. So for any interstellar spacefaring species that happens to find this disk, this is an evidence that we existed.
At a certain point of time, yes, of course. Yes.
And so in a way this becomes, for me, I think my interest in the work is really pivoted around this idea of reaching out from us to the unknown. In a world where currently we have perhaps this absolute absence of vocabulary while speaking to the other, whether it's left speaking to right, religious divides, Republicans and Democrats, or whatever binaries that the world has been split into, there's no vocabulary that bridges us, this sense of the other. But in this case, the other is so distant and unknown that who becomes the sender? The sender then becomes us, a single unitary planetary species. So that's really where Covering Letter Terranum Nuncius comes from, this search for a certain vocabulary, the sense of the other which is unknown, but also at another level a sense of our own certitude in the world, because there's a projection on the wall which is this diagram that was to reveal to this species that finds this record, how to find us back. So it was meant to show the location of the solar system relationship to the 14 or 15 pulsars that were known to be indicators of where we are in the universe. But as of now, we know there are a few hundred pulsars. So the diagram is defunct. So our own address, as we revealed it then, stands revised. So the question we ask is, if we don't know where we are, then how do we think about our own place and actions in the world?
Absolutely. It's just quite phenomenal. Other than being an artist, you have done such incredible amount of research in this topic. I mean, and it's just really amazing that you have gone to the depths and meaning of each and every work, and the projection and perception and the way that you perceive it and the way that you have projected. It's just incredible, because it also makes you realize that each body of work needs to be treated in a particular way. Like even Covering Letter, which was showcased at the Venice Biennale, where you mentioned that all the letter and the words were projected against this mist or this cloud of mist, and was it always that clear? Like, I mean, the way that you would like to project it and for the world to see it, like.
I not really. In fact, I mean, most works. I mean, when you begin to make work when you do not know something,
right.
Because the making of the work is a way to kind of engage and understand something about the world. So the only thing I knew about covering letter, or at least that I knew and felt when I saw the letter, the actual facsimile of the letter at the Mani Bhavan in Bombay, this was now 10 or 11 years ago, was this feeling that I would love for an individual to inhabit this letter.
Right.
I didn't know how.
Right.
You could not. The letter is a piece of paper. How do you move through that? But I almost felt that this was something that a single individual could inhabit, and the relationship between the sender and recipient become like this long aisle of human possibility. One of the greatest proponents of peace, writing to the most brutal perpetrator of violence. Perhaps cohabiting the planet at any point in time, but cohabiting the planet then,
at that moment,
5 weeks before the Second World War. I think just felt like something that a body can move through and reflect, not just about the world, but I think about the self.
And also the message that it actually like sends out, like it's just so profound, like in that sense. So there's this also this constant question that a lot of artists use a single medium, and the medium evolves over the various years, and over the years that medium actually becomes a signature style. But as far as you're concerned, you have used every single medium, and you have actually gone into the depths of the various mediums, and it's just incredible because there is so much research involved in that kind of, in that practice itself. So can you tell us a little bit about all the various mediums that you have worked with, and which would come closest to your heart in that sense? Because
I don't really think of medium as the end.
Right.
The medium is the means, which is what the word medium means.
That's true.
The medium is not something you get to. The map is not what you're traveling to. The map is what you're traveling with.
Yeah, it's a destination.
That really matters, so in that process, the medium sort of emerges at some point in your inquiries. It's really the process of really thinking about something that actually procreates the medium, that then births the idea that actually first give the medium that location in your brain and mind to pursue this. So, and many a times, many things that you ask yourself don't become artworks because they haven't sort of self-organized as material, and the material hasn't organized that impulses, and that whole cycling of an impulse into an image hasn't occurred. So you just wait, and I think over the years I've become a patient, patient observer of this process, and I'm like covering letter to covering letter, terranum, nuncius took 7 years, or the 3 public notice pieces, this is called trilogy at the end of it, but then in the process it took 10 years for the trilogy to come together, and I'm happy to just wait for the next thing to happen in its own time.
I know, because you also when you had spoken to me about the Wind series, where you actually go into the depth of how the fire reacts to the wind, and just the way that the entire process took place, which was really interesting. Even now when I engage with that work, it's just for me something that is just phenomenal, that you chanced upon it, and it became like something or a body of work that you had created. So with every single body of work, you're pushing the boundaries all the time. So is there a lot of pressure, because I'm sure people are always looking forward to seeing your works in the various ways that it's being projected, which is just, it's just so exciting and interesting, just the engagement with the work and with everything that it's like I want to go into your mind and really it's just amazing, the way that you think and the way you project. So is there a lot of pressure?
I don't know what pressure means. I know the studio is an interesting place. It's a place of contradictions. There's exhilaration, there's internal
Angst,
yeah, and there's also your own uncertainties, your own failings in terms of realizing fully what some image tells you. You know that there's a veil that the image is yet not unfolding, and but that's the melodrama of the studio process. And I prefer not talking about it. And I think your daily process goes through this. You have
this
a
back and forth.
Yeah, that's a routine you kind of maintain. I mean, this is getting out there and talking about the work is only sporadic. But rest of the time you just maintain an internal rhythm, and the internal rhythm has to then cycle into a sort of studio rhythm. And
percolates.
And finally, it finally percolates into your thinking, into your practice, into your work, and
onto that canvas. Totally. So you have experimented with so many various, like I said, like the various mediums. So is there a possibility of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality?
Like I said, like this. So, for instance, like I wouldn't know. For instance, it's not I who would decide that I'm going to do something with artificial intelligence. It's certain impulses that would need sort of me to pursue something so it's like I'm just a part of this triangulation between the final artwork, a certain set of impulses, and then there's this journey that in which I sort of have to be patient, but I have to also then become active, and then become patient again and become active again. So I think it's just really about so I don't really begin from the medium. Everything ends up becoming something, right? Everything that you think about materializes in some form.
Totally.
That's not just in the art studio or something. That's how it is in life.
Yes, absolutely.
Your processes, your thought processes activate themselves as actions in the world, and that creates objects and experiences. And the same thing applies in the studio. The studio is a real tiny laboratory that mirrors the processes of the world.
Right.
And so for me, I wouldn't know what I would do in terms of whether from pure material terms or mediumistic terms. But I don't open myself or close myself to anything.
Any possibility, yes, of course, No, but I mean, for like, like just for people who collect your work, to people who are enthusiastic about every body of work that you create, it's very refreshing, because at the end of every single body that you have created, it is totally different from what was in the past. I mean, to like how going forward, like I mean, just the way that each and every body of work has been presented, which is just for someone who's seeing the scale and size of work, it's just so I mean, evocative of so many various emotions, like just coming in front of something as magical and phenomenal as the body of work that you have just recently created. It's just totally amazing. So how long did this process take, and what did it entail? Like,
so I mean, the painting Ellipses, I mean, if I think of it in terms of when was the first image that is here, when did it first appear? About 2 years ago.
right.
But for the good 12 or 13 months, I don't think I really thought of it as a single work.
Right.
This is actually, I mean, there's still several canvases in the studio which have, like I might just say puddles or ripples of imagery, or like little islands of images sitting there, and that's not how I painted in the past, but that's progressively how I paint now. That each image is like a way to kind of mine certain processes of the outer world, or the inner world, whatever. Probably there's no difference. Because at a certain processual level, at a certain energetic level, they connect in a way that, for me, the need to paint more and more begins where my linguistic capacities or my own interpretive capacities end, is where the images begin. So I think for me,
the
limitations of language or the sort of or my language. There's a lot of languages that breach breach certain aspects of the world and then take you to fundamental reality. But I'm not a poet. I'm a painter, or I'm an artist. And for me, it's about how does the images, how does pigment become a vessel to take me where my words cannot take me, And but it's about 8 or 9 months ago that I began to feel that when I place them together, these images become almost like a little archipelago, like islands of images that begins to connect in some ways. And then I started thinking of this possibility that it's a single work. And so I think of it now more and more like an accordion, this thing that just opens out, and there are lots of images that actually appeared because there were other images that existed. So there's one image procreates the next and so on. That's creating like these kind of bridge imagery that talk to two images in some ways.
It's just amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of our platform, the International Foundation for the Arts, and giving us your time. As a closing, I just want to know if you can give a message out to a lot of the younger emerging artists from your end about about everything that you would like to say as a message out to.
Well, then the young artist should just know that every artist is always emerging. You wake up every day and you're just emerging. That's it. We're all pursuing at the end of the day those same questions. And
totally. I think there's so much learning, and it's never going to end. And as senior as you are, I guess there's so much humility in everything that you do and you say and you speak, and it makes your art so much more enduring. It just makes everything that you do so much more relatable in that sense. So I think it's very inspiring for people like us to actually get a perspective of that from you, and I think you've done that beautifully. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out, and yes, and good luck to this amazing body of work that you have created. So like you said, it has an energy of its own, and it traverses like time and space. And
Thank you.